welcome back. We are starting this vlog very early after I finished the last one in the series, which I feel like is an accomplishment in my series videos because a lot of times I disappear for 4, 5, 6 months at a time. But we are going back to reading Reese's book club picks, and we are doing the first half of 2018. So I figured 12 books in one vlog is a little much. So 6 is good. The last one did have 7 because there were only 7 months I did it in 2017. So this one is going to cover from January of 2018 through June of 2018's picks. And you have to excuse me, I am a little bit sick, and Shelby is going to join us because I was making hand motions and she got excited. Yeah, here she's coming back because I'm moving my hands. You get your big belly here. Can I see your big belly again? She's gonna hide literally right behind the camera and stare at me. You're a pretty cat. You have not been very cuddly the past few days. I've been sick and she has not been very cuddly with me at all. It's kind of rude. The dogs were cuddly with me. I've even left the windows open for you. It's kind of rude. But while Shelby stares at me on the other side of the camera, we will get into book 1. So book 1 for this vlog is January of 2018's pick, which is Braving the Wilderness, The Quest for True Belonging, and the Courage to Stand Alone by Brene Brown. And I listened to this as an audiobook. I think for the most part I'm going to prefer to do these as audiobooks. It's a very short one. It's only a little over 4 hours. I think it was 208 pages, but it is a nonfiction pick, which nonfiction can be rather hit or miss for me. Sometimes it goes really well, other times it does not. But this one's more of a psychology-based one, which I did minor in psychology. So it is an interest area for me. So I kind of started off with nonfiction. Oh. But I enjoyed this one. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst. There are definitely some questions she poses in it, which I think is good for thought, food for thought. And overall I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. Like I said, there are some things that, it really makes you think, and other things I'm like, you and a million other people have said this. So, you didn't really bring anything new to the table, but it was very interesting. I do like more of, anecdotal non-fictions. Tell me something that applies to you in real life and tell us about your life, or more the non-fiction I like to do, or very scientific based are my preferred non-fictions, but like I said, middle of the road for this one. Book 2 for this vlog, because I finished 2 of them while I was sick here, is February's pick, which is The Light We Lost by Jill Santopolo, which this one's a little bit longer. It is a contemporary romance. So, it's not super long. It's under 8 hours, a little over 7 actually. So I give this one 3.5 stars. I would have given it a higher rating. However, there is a trope that I really hate in romance, and it's the cheating trope. And maybe a little bit of spoiler, but the main character cheats on her husband with her ex-boyfriend. And it's a Romeo and Juliet situation, which I am not a big fan of Romeo and Juliet. Let me just say that right loud and clear. I think Romeo and Juliet are very stupid. But she cheats on her husband, and I can't support this. I get you're in love with him, the star-crossed lovers thing, but then leave your husband, okay? Don't go and cheat on him. And it would have been one thing if it was more of an emotional cheating. Okay, I probably could have let that one slide. I don't condone emotional cheating, but could have let it slide. But she full on cheats on her husband. And again, spoiler warning here. She ends up pregnant with his baby, and she also has sex with her husband on the same day. So she first didn't know whose child this was. And so she had a paternity test done in a hospital in a foreign country because her ex-boyfriend is laying there brain dead. So it ends with, her finding out she's pregnant with her ex-boyfriend's baby, and he's brain dead, and she's the one who gets to make the call whether to take him off life support or not. And I mean, he's brain dead, and she does take him off life support. And it ends with a letter to her son about how much she loved his father, which, yes, I know you did, but again, I really have a hard time getting over the cheating aspect. That's kind of a personal trigger for me, so I only get that 3.5. If there wouldn't have been cheating involved, it would have been a 4.5, guaranteed. But I cannot get over cheating scandals. I'm so sorry. But I'm trying to keep these little short and sweet here tonight because if you can hear my voice, I am sick. So I waited until the worst of it was past before I recorded. But I gotta get these thoughts out before I forget them. So next we will move on to our next pick, which, let me look it up real quick, because I wrote them all down. So our next one, I am on the hold list. It is erotic stories for Punjabi widows. So we will get into that one pretty soon, hopefully. Long time no see on this vlog. I have finished 3 books since we did a last little check-in. I honestly couldn't tell you how long it's been. I was on quite a few hold lists for these next few books because I've been very insistent on reading them in order, just because I would prefer to read them in order. In March of 2018, the pick was Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows by Balli, Kaur, Jaswal. Probably butchered that, I'm so sorry. And I ended up giving this book 3 stars. It was a relatively quick read, I will say. However, I didn't find it super engaging for me. Like, it's a contemporary mystery, which I really haven't read a lot of contemporary mysteries. I feel like that's a little bit of an anomaly. I feel like most contemporary books I read are more in the romance category as well. So a contemporary mystery was very interesting. However, like I said, it just didn't really engage me. I didn't relate well to the characters. I quite honestly didn't care about what was going on in their lives. I didn't care about their drama, except for, like, if your husband is so bad, leave him. Like, girl, don't be putting up with this kind of, bullshit. Next one we end up reading was April of 2018's pick, which was Happiness, a Memoir, The Crooked Little Road to Semi-Ever After by Heather Harpham. I just finished this one pretty recently, and 5 stars. This was amazing. It's definitely going to make a 2024 best of list because it's heartbreaking, and I know it says happiness in the title, but like, it's mostly heartbreaking. And just to give you like a summary, this is a nonfiction, obviously it's a memoir, and it's Heather Harpham she's an artist, and she is dating this guy, and they end up unexpectedly pregnant, and at first, Brian doesn't want anything to do with having a kid, and so Heather moves from New York back home to California, and she moves kind of in with her mom, goes through her pregnancy alone, and when she gives birth, there's a problem. Her baby has a rare blood disorder and has to get transfusions on a regular basis. She's in the PICU, and she ends up calling Brian, the baby's dad, and they talk a little bit. And eventually, around when the baby is 6 months old, Brian comes to visit and meet his daughter, and it's kind of like life-changing for him. Even throughout those 6 months where he wasn't there, he was, calling, inquiring after the baby. But I think when he really saw her is really when he was like, I have a kid, I'm gonna do this now. So he ended up staying and seeing his baby, and they end up kind of doing a long distance thing because he's still teaching in New York at a college, and they're there. And they get told, as through all these doctor's visits, if you had another kid, you could potentially save her if a second kid would be a match. And they make the decision, we're not going to purposely put a kid in that position. And literally 2 weeks later, she finds out again that she's unexpectedly pregnant. The second kid ends up being a perfect match. They have a little boy. He ends up being a perfect match for his sister. And they bank his cord blood, and they just hold off for a few years. and they move to New York together and to raise their family, and through that they eventually decide, let's take the leap and try to cure our daughter. So that's like probably like the first 50% of the book, and then the second half is going through the transplant, because they do a bone marrow transplant, and it's kind of the ins and outs of beforehand. They have to go through all this stuff to like detox her liver, basically. She has too much iron in it, and then the actual transplant, and then the recovery in the hospital after the transplant. And it does go into some detail. It goes into her feelings, and it's definitely like very emotional, very sad, but as you get toward the end of the book, you realize it like starts to look up. And I feel like that was kind of obvious, that obviously the baby makes it through. I'll say that right now, because it's called Happiness. You ain't gonna name your book Happiness if your baby didn't make it through this, but from what we get, both of the kids are living great in New York. They're back there, and they're both thriving. And it was so uplifting at the end. Like, and it had a lot of medical stuff in it. And I think we all know, I work in the medical field. It was very interesting for me. So then that brings us to the third book I've read for this one, which is You Think It, I'll Say It by Curtis Sittenfeld, I guess is how you would say that. This one was another 3-star for me, guys. I mean, most of these books are just like average for so far for 2018. I mean, with the exception of, the last one, the memoir, like, otherwise, So this one is a collection of short stories, and I've said it on this channel before that I am not a short story person. I get very annoyed very quickly. This was a quick read, I'll give it that. I don't like short stories because I don't feel like it fully fleshes out the story, and we had all these short stories, and I'm like, but I want more of an elaboration on that, because like I feel like several of the stories had like a good basis for the beginning of a story, and then it ends because it's a short story. I'm like, I feel like that could have been the beginning of like a great full-length novel. And that's really where my downfall with short stories comes, is I just don't fully enjoy the aspect that they're so short. Because, I mean, primarily, I would say my favorite genre is fantasy. And fantasy books are thick. I need more explanation, guys. A short stories is not just a vibe for me. I'm just like, you just skipping out on all this information. That brings us now to June of 2018's pick, which is Something in the Water by Catherine Steadman. I just checked this one out on Libby. I have another audiobook to finish first, but then I'm going to dive into this one. And hopefully it looks up, because first half of 2018 isn't looking too hot so far. It's like pretty average, subpar. It's me. I'm back with the final book. So the final book for this one was June's pick in 2018, which was Something in the Water by Catherine Steadman. And I did listen to the audiobook. I will say one thing I really enjoyed about the audiobook is that it is read by the author. But overall, I'll just get into the synopsis first, and then I'll tell you what I gave it. If you could make one simple choice that would change your life forever, would you? Aaron is a documentary filmmaker on the brink of a professional breakthrough. Mark, a handsome investment banker with big plans. Passionately in love, they embark on a dream honeymoon to the tropical island of Bora Bora, where they enjoy the sun, the sand, and each other. Then, while scuba diving in the crystal blue sea, they find something in the water. Could the life of your dreams be the stuff of nightmares? Suddenly, the newlyweds must make a dangerous choice, to speak out or to protect their secret. After all, if no one else knows, who would be hurt? Their decision will trigger a devastating chain of events. And, after, I did not read the synopsis beforehand, but, it compares this stuff to Ruth Ware and Paula Hawkins and Sherry Lupina, and I do not like anything Sherry Lupina has ever written that I've read. I do not like any of them. Ruth Ware is very hit or miss, and so is Paula Hawkins. So retrospectively, it's not that hard for me to say, oh yeah, this was totally a 2.5 star for me, because I did not care about these characters. Aaron wasn't likable, Mark wasn't likable. I didn't care about either of them. I think Aaron was an idiot. I think Mark was an idiot. I just didn't care, and just the whole this plot line, I just wasn't a fan of it. I didn't like the heist stuff they were doing, and I'm just not into it. When did this turn into, robbery stuff? It was not for me. It really wasn't. And then they're hiding fucking flash drives and burner phones, and I did not sign up for a spy novel, okay? I was not a fan. And then at one point it's is the mafia gonna get involved? This sounds mafia-like. What is happening? I just wasn't a fan. This was a really miss. Going back and looking, most of these books were misses. Like, this 2018, the first half of it was rough. I was not fans of this stuff. Best book I read is Happiness, a memoir. That was heartbreaking, but the best one. It's the only one I gave 5 stars. Man, it kind of makes me scared to look at what they got for the rest of 2018.